Mary Ann Borchert. And I want to say up front that I am not a medical professional, but I'm very interested in vision issues, and you'll hear why later. Well, actually, in the announcement, it said that I've got macular degeneration. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing to help myself and the low vision interest group for aging at home. Let me share the screen here and see if we can make it work again this time. Okay. Doesn't seem to like that. Darn it. Well, I tried slideshow and from the beginning, Leslie, and it's.
I don't think it.
Let's try the.
Doing it.
I don't know. Yeah, nothing's.
Oh, is it not catching on to?
It's not responding at all.
Oh.
Let me go back to. Try this again. Sorry, folks. We thought we had this.
We should have left it up.
I know. I just minimized it. You know what? I'm going to.
Here, we'll stop sharing, and why don't you click out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then reopen it and see if that helps.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yay!
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. It's a function of vision, to a certain extent, and technology for the rest of it. So, okay. Disclaimer is that I'm not a medical professional, but I am going to talk about normal eye changes, the things that most of us go through as we get older, as well as some of the common eye diseases. And the best part is, how are we adapting to those things? What I call workarounds. And as you've gotten older, you've probably noticed that you may need more light and perhaps magnification to see things. And I gathered up a few things from around my house that I've used over the years, because things have changed over time, and came up with all of these magnifying glasses and some combination magnifiers and lights, and then some special lights. So you can see, I even used a headlamp at one point for a while. But can you see my pointer?
Yes.
And up, the stand white light is one. The top comes out and points a light. It's a good task light. But recently I got this long wand that's LED lights that is really great. I saw somebody in the salon using it when she was doing my nails, and I thought, oh, I really like that. And that's a really good task light and very, very bright. But as we get older, the lens just doesn't adapt as well to different situations, and we have to move the book further away, perhaps, or you wear glasses that need to be changed periodically. And also, our adaptation to light is different. So going from a dark room to a brightness, I mean, it almost hurts my eyes to look at this picture, but what's even worse is when you walk from outside into a darker room, it takes a long time to adjust your eyes, even if you don't have any eye disease, just normal aging of your eye. There are ways to keep your eyes as healthy as possible, and one which, and many of these things are you've heard before for other health reasons, but eating omega-3 fatty foods are helpful. And the salmon and sardines, nuts, and leafy greens are really healthy foods for your eyes. And if your doctor recommends it, supplements sometimes help. And you may have heard of the AREDS2, AREDS study group of supplements that really seem to help not prevent eye disease, but can forestall it or slow it down. But a good thing to do is protect your eyes. Make sure you wear sunglasses in ski conditions or summer gardening or whenever you're outside. It really helps your eyes. And another thing is to limit your screen time, whether it's computer or tablet or phone or TV. One way to do that is use the 20-20-20 rule, which is to look away from your screen every 20 minutes, focus on something about 20 feet away for about 20 seconds, and just give your eyes a rest. That really helps. Makes them feel better and it makes them last longer. But also manage your health conditions. If you happen to have diabetes, high blood pressure, or heart disease in particular, these can definitely affect your eyes. And so you want to make sure that those diseases are under control. And the obvious one is to get regular eye exams. There are some things that just you don't recognize things that are happening because they happen so slowly. But your eye doctor will be able to keep track of those. Some of the things that you will notice, perhaps, are floaters, light flashes, and dry eyes as you get older, or in relationship to another disease. And quite often feel like this fellow here. Light flashes are probably the most important thing to get to the doctor about right away. But there are ways that you can treat some of these things. And dry eye, I've had dry eye for a long time, and I've tried some prescription meds, as well as over the counter, and it really helps. Cataracts is something that we've all know about. We either have had cataracts or know someone who has. It's your coating on the lens gets cloudy, and so it's harder to see. You may have trouble differentiating colors, and sometimes see halos around lights, and glare really bothers your eyes. And actually, cataracts occur in most people over 70. Sometimes it's not really bad, but surgery is the one treatment for it. And if you haven't had cataract surgery, it's easy, it's fast, and it really helps for almost everybody. Glaucoma is something that you've heard of, I'm sure, but you don't know that you've got it. You don't feel it. And it's an increased pressure in your eye. And if it isn't treated, it can affect your optic nerve and cause blindness. So it's really important to stay on top of that, again, with regular eye doctor appointments. Macular degeneration, sometimes called age-related macular degeneration, or AMD, is a disease that affects the central vision. And peripheral vision is, as long as your peripheral vision and you don't have other issues going on, you can still see and you'll never be completely blind. But the central vision is what sees details. So that makes things a little difficult. There are several types of macular degeneration. One is wet, what's called wet AMD. I think of it kind of as the braided rivers that we've got here. It's leaky blood vessels in your eye. And this can be treated with, folks who've had shots in their eye. Some have this done every month or two, and it will stop the progression and sometimes reverse the problems. Dry macular degeneration is thinning of the coating over the macula, and little deposits or the cells kind of die. And so there's spots in that area that aren't working right. And until February, we said there was no treatment for dry macular degeneration, but the FDA has approved a medication that is, again, a shot that is directly into the eye, but it's supposed to not reverse it, or stop it, but slow down the progress. And so that sounds really good. I did talk to one ophthalmologist in town, and he said, well, sounds good. We're going to wait a while before we do anything with this, or, recommend it. So I'm going to keep track of that. All of these things that affect your vision can be called low vision. And you may have heard that term. Also, reduced vision or vision impairment. It's kind of like hard of hearing, but we don't say hard of seeing, although it equates to that. And if someone has a hard time reading, can't see street signs, need more light, or sometimes need less light, can't see things that don't have high contrast, or sometimes parts of words are missing. And when you're trying to read, and this will change with all of us over time. I was diagnosed over 25 years ago, and for a long time, I really didn't notice much of a difference in my eyesight. And the last 5 or 10 years, it started getting worse. And so I've been doing a lot more studying about this. And as I said, figuring out a lot of workarounds, which is the fun thing to talk about here. We'll get to that soon. My younger sister also has macular degeneration, and she started out with the wet kind and has had the treatment. But so that eye, though, she waited too long to really get it looked at, and didn't realize what was happening. And so that one eye is not good at all. And she has the dry kind in the other eye. But she's a very creative person, and she has written a little book called What Grandma Sees, because people are always asking, well, what can you see? You've got this thing and you say you have a problem, but what can you see? You're not blind. Anyway, so she has written this book in the words of someone's grandson, talking about his grandma. And she had a friend illustrate it for her. So I'm using some of her illustrations here in this talk. So what Grandma and I see in the wide view is the exterior edges, but not what's in the middle. So, for instance, just can't see the detail in the middle. And it's If this, for instance, actually, I found these photos. I couldn't figure out how to take a picture of something like that. The illustration is good. I found these photos on a website, or a fellow who does a series of videos, maybe just a YouTube channel or something. I'm not sure where it is. It's called The Blind Life. And he did a talk on how I see. And this shows it really well, because the smartphone on the left is what he can see with his peripheral vision. But if he looks directly at it, he can only see a little bit of it. He can't see the detail. And yet his brain kind of fills in the color of the background. And so he sees something there, but it's not the detail of that phone. And it's the same thing with looking at a person. Faces are not as visible to us. They're just a little bit blurry. I mean, you're still there if you're in front of me, but it's very hard to define details. Oops. I was going to put in a picture of my backyard here, because looking at the big picture of a group of trees or a whole group of people or whatever, I can see that. But and it doesn't look like this. I'm sorry. Go on. It's just the details. And so when you're looking at it in a distance, you can see a lot of what you feel like you've got good vision at that point. But so what do you see? And you see a person wearing glasses, generally getting along fine. But what I see when I see another person is I can recognize a voice and the way someone walks. Perhaps if that person always wears a particular hat. But the main thing is movement. And so a wave is really handy. Then I know where you are and can see you. And I think this is true for most of us with low vision. The movement is very helpful. If I'm meeting someone in a restaurant, I may not be able to see you across the room, but I'd be able to see a waving hand. Or you could get up and shout at me, that'd be fine too, but that's not necessary. Okay. Now, sometimes when we're reading, and we're the close view here, the type of font and the size and the contrast are really pretty important. And you may not have thought about the type of font when you're reading a book or the newspaper or a website online. And I don't know if you notice the difference of these two lines here. The serif font is the Times New Roman font, which I always thought was beautiful, but it's really much harder for me to read now. It's got these squigglies on the ends of the all the letters, which make it a pretty font. But it's definitely harder to see or to read for someone with low vision. So a non-serif font like Arial or Helvetica, if you pay any attention to the fonts that you use when you're writing, are much easier to read. Contrast is one of the things that is the biggest issue when trying to read something. And I imagine you can notice the differences. You can probably read all 4 lines if you have good vision, but some of them are better than others, right? The one at the top has light blue type with on the back white background, and that is very difficult to read for someone with low vision, especially macular degeneration. The one at the bottom is a black font on a dark blue background, and that's very difficult to read because there's not much difference between the color of the font and the typing and the background. So you know, if you've got low vision, you know this. If you don't, if you are doing a presentation or a website or something like that, keep it in mind so that everybody will be able to see what you're doing or read it. And I don't know about anybody else, but I have kind of what I call the snow globe effect. That if, again, trying to figure out what I see and how I see it, quite often it feels like there's something like a snow globe in front of the piece of paper or the website or the screen that I'm looking at, which, if you think about it, if you put a piece of paper behind this snow globe, there will be pieces of what's on the paper that won't show through because of the stuff swirling around in the snow globe. And that's the way my eyes feel sometimes. So parts of words are missing. And it's quite often, if I just turn my head a little bit and use my peripheral vision, then I can see much better. I can see that. But it does mean if I move my head back and forth like that, it means that's why, because the central vision just doesn't pick things up. Okay, that's what's happening on this page here. Oh, okay. Be sure to ask what works and doesn't work for someone with low vision. And you may be in an organization with other folks with low vision, or you have family or friends. And I know some people have tried to be very helpful and say, you know, give me a piece of paper or send a document that's all caps. Well, for some reason, all capital letters is just difficult for me to read. I think it's harder to tell the end of one word to the next, or I don't know what it is. But so that may be good for some people, probably is, but for me, it's not. And so if you know someone who is having trouble seeing, ask what types of things work best for them when you're writing a letter or showing them a document or something. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. Okay, are there any questions about this first part of this talk? Now we're going to talk about the fun part. Any questions about what we've talked about so far?
No.
Comments or questions? Does it sound familiar to some of you?
Yes.
That's not good, I guess. I don't know. But that's why we're here. Okay. Okay, let's go on. I have, you know, tried to make things work, even with my low vision, and have come up with, not just come up, but found some things. There's a lot of research going on out there. There are really good things available. And so I want to show you some of the things that help me. And one of the things is the computer setup that I've got. So I've got a laptop computer, but I have a large monitor. It's 27 or 28 inch, the diagonal measurement, something like that. I don't think actually that a larger monitor would help for me, but it's definitely better than the laptop, which is small. So I can use, you can see that I've got large setup on the monitor, is on the computer as well. So I've got large icons on the lap or on the desktop. And so the print is much smaller on the laptop than it is on the desktop. But I also have a magnifying glass handy. so that I can even enlarge what's on the screen here on the monitor. I've got a coffee cup, that's important. Light that if I have a piece of paper that I need to read to copy into something on the that I'm writing or something that's there. And just recently, I got a new, it looks like a Scrabble board actually when I look at it right now. But it's a keyboard that's the same size as a regular keyboard, but it's white and with dark letters on it. And that makes it much easier to see. Sorry. Okay. I set myself for half an hour so that I could get to this part, make sure to get to this part and still have time to talk a little bit or discuss things. So anyway, this, I've only used this for about a week and I really kind of like it, the special keyboard. Another, well, really the fun thing that I discovered, and I don't know whether I read it somewhere or just discovered it, but using rubber dots, rubber bumpers, rubber dots, they're called different things, and they come in all sizes and shapes and some colored. I usually get the clear ones, but if I can't read, I mean, you know, microwave control panels are usually black and very difficult to read if you don't have good light or if you have low vision. By putting a dot, you know, one of these sticky dots on some of the numbers or automatic, like the popcorn button or whatever you use, you don't have to really struggle to see what's there. So that's good on the microwave. I use it on the washer and dryer, on my keyboard. I've used it in my car. I'm not driving anymore. It's been 2 years, but in the car, I had the car 5 years and I still never learned which button to push to open the back of the trunk. And so I put one of these rubber dots on it. It's really handy and inexpensive way to find things by touch, so you don't have to strain your eyes to look for things. And these are the same things that you use on the back of cupboard doors to keep them from slamming. And so if you need to replace some in your kitchen, you can just use these. And they're also used sometimes on the bottom of pictures that you're hanging, because the hook may stick out further at the top and you're going to hang the wire on that. The bottom may tilt in towards the wall, but you can make it stand out a little further if you use some of these rubber dots, rubber bumpers. So you can get them online. I got these type, I guess, from Amazon because there's a big choice there, but they're sometimes in the hardware department at Fred's or picture framing department at Michael's or Joann's. Okay, contrast and support. Doesn't sound like they go together, except that this is a picture of my front porch. And it shows some different things. One is the black stripes at the edge of each step. And I added that a few years ago. It really helps see where the steps are, where you know you're going to have to step down or step up. And this you can do inside or outside. You can paint the strips. If you're building something, you can put different color wood there. This is duct tape. Duct tape works great. It comes in all different colors. You can choose your color. And the other things I'd like to point out, one is the railing on the right-hand side is smaller than the one on the left. The one on the left was made when the house was built, and it matches the railing all the way around the porch. Just last summer, I decided to have the one on the right built, and thinking, oh, this is for you know, all the people who come to visit me. They're getting older. They needed an extra support. Whoops. and may need it on the right-hand side. Well, I find that I'm using it all the time because I'm getting older too. And you never know where you're going to, which hand you're going to be carrying things in. And I've discovered that the one on the left has posts at the top and the bottom, and it's not as easy to get into the part where you can really hang on to it, if that makes sense. Just beyond the right-hand railing, you may notice that there's some paper bags on the porch, paper and plastic, I think, for this order. I order groceries online now, and most of the time have them delivered. It's really handy. It's easier for me to see items online at the Fred Meyer or Safeway website than it is on the shelves quite often. I'd have to pick things up and look at them very close. And that takes time, and you don't want everybody to see you handling their groceries because you're picking it up and maybe putting it back on the shelf. It's really handy to be able to order online and have it delivered. You can even get it the same day within a couple hours if you want it. And it's not that expensive. There's both Fred's and Safeway have a membership program that costs $50 to $100 a year, and you'll get free delivery. And if you think about ordering groceries, getting groceries every week or two, that's very reasonable. And they add on a little bit for a tip, which you can choose to pay or not. But I found that it's really, really helpful. Technology is something that I really take advantage of, and I think for me, it's been very useful, kept me going for longer than I would have otherwise. And I was funny when I was putting this together, I discovered that both the Kindle from Amazon and the iPhone were first out here, in 2007. I didn't realize 2007 was such a big technology year, but it was. And I used the Kindle for many years. I just cannot read things more than just a few lines because my eyes just get tired trying to figure out what the words are. But I really made use of the Kindle when it first came out, and I had 4 or 5 of them probably because they kept upgrading them and making the contrast better and making the screen brighter and things. So that was handy. It's not as nice as reading a book, that's for sure, but it was helpful. Smartphone I didn't get right away, but that has been a lifesaver for me. We know that we can make phone calls and take pictures on it. But there are some apps that are just amazing. The one I really use all the time is called Seeing AI. It reads short text. It'll do a whole document. It will read handwriting, and I can't read my handwriting or anybody else's anymore. So it is really exciting. This was my garden book from the page from last year. I wanted to find out, okay, it's time to start a garden. What was the weather last year? What happened? And when you open the app, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, this is what you see. It looks like your camera, except that these icons are across the bottom in this app. And I clicked on the second from the right. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, and that's for the handwriting app. And when you just touch the screen, it will take a minute to process. It'll give you a picture of what you were looking at, and then give you the text. It's not always perfect, but it's really pretty close. I can read Christmas cards with it and that sort of thing. But the best thing is it will read it out loud. So I don't have to read all of this. It'll read the whole thing out loud to me. And I really like being read to, I guess, from the time I was a kid. The other really good app that I use periodically, not a lot, but this is called Be My Eyes. It's a website called Be My Eyes, an organization. And there are hundreds of thousands of volunteers around the world, and we happen to have at least one in Fairbanks. I don't know if you know Sue Royston. I don't think she's on today, but she's a volunteer for Be My Eyes. And the when you open that app, you will get the screen like this on the right. The big blue button says call a volunteer. And you push that button or just tap that button and it will say waiting, we're connecting. You have already registered with Be My Eyes and told them which language you speak. So they are looking to find someone who is an English speaker 24 hours a day, because it could be from anywhere in the world. And and pretty soon someone will say, answer and say, how can I help you? And you can use this volunteer to see what your camera sees. So it may be reading recipe, it may be reading a menu in a restaurant, it could be reading a label on a can. You don't know whether this is tuna fish or salmon in this can or whatever. Or maybe you want to compare, you want a particular color of socks to go with your outfit or a tie or whatever. And the volunteer can help you with that just by using the camera on your phone. And you don't know who that person is, they don't know who you are, but they're there to help. What I have really used it for is the second thing on here below the blue button says browse specialized help. And if you click on that or tap that, you get a list of categories. So there's healthcare and technology and cleaning or something. There are various businesses that have partnered with Be My Eyes and have an accessibility desk or someone there who, if you see a business there that you want to contact, you just click that, it will automatically dial the number for that business and that particular desk. And someone will say, how can I help you? And it will tell you whether the business is closed right then. I have used it for Microsoft, and Microsoft is available 24 hours a day, every day. And since I'm a night owl, it will sometimes be at midnight, and I will call and somebody will be able to answer the phone and usually help with my questions. And it doesn't have to be vision related, although I've got to say that probably most of the problems that I've had are because I am not very patient, and sometimes I do things where I think I see something and I shouldn't have clicked that or there or something, but they can get me back on track. So these two apps are really, really helpful. I also use a smart speaker. Well, actually, I've got 4 of them in the house. And these are the Amazon Echo Alexa devices. And there's one behind me, so she may start talking to me if I say that name again. But I use them to make grocery lists. I just ask her to add milk to the list, whatever. It'll play music. It will play KUAC. I can set, I've got an alarm, excuse me, my cat is about to disrupt us here. I've got an alarm set to play KUAC every morning. And so that wakes me up. It'll play, sorry. Anyway, and if you like a particular kind of music or a musician, you can play that. It will play, Amazon Music has a lot of things that are for free, or you can go to pay extra and do Amazon Unlimited, which apparently would do whole symphonies and things for you. And it will read books if they're from I'm thinking the word audible.com, which you've probably heard of. So it will, your Audible book, audiobook will read on this device. And I should have, well, it's just reading out loud, as I said, is really useful for me. And I don't have a slide on audiobooks, but audible.com is one place to get audiobooks. There's another place that's chirp.com, CHIRP.com. And their books are always on sale, 10% off or something like that, the audiobooks. Or if you get on their email list, they'll send you books that are for special deals. And I get an email every day with 4 or 5 books listed from $4 to $5 each, instead of paying $25 or $30 for an audiobook. And I bought that book. I can read it many times if you want to. It's really a good option to Audible, I think. Although I've gotten a lot of books from Audible as well. And then, of course, there's the library. So check with Noel Ween, and they've got a lot of books that you can borrow. I'm reading one right now that I did have to wait for. It was one that someone told me was really good. So I put a hold on it. It's like a regular library book. And then I got an email last week saying, your book is available. So I downloaded it and I got it for 3 weeks, I think. But anyway, so the library has the options there too for borrowing books. But the Seeing AI app is great for reading. The newspaper, I get the e-edition of the Newsviner, and there is a function for reading. It's rather awkward, and I don't like the voice, but it does read the articles to me, and that's great. And Microsoft Word, there's a way to read out loud a document, and you can stop and start it wherever you want to. For PDFs, I find the new format of Adobe is difficult, and so I generally export it to a Word document and read it there, but I'm sure that there's a way to do it still in Adobe Reader. But you'll find things, text to speech is one. If you're looking for how to do it with a particular program, the terminology is a little bit different. Text to speech, read out loud, read aloud. On the iPhone, there's something read over or something, and there are different things that, anyway, you've got to do a little research on that, but there are lots of ways to have things read to you, so you don't have to miss out just because reading is difficult. For transportation, as I said, I have not been driving for the last 2 years. But in town, if you're in town, there's bus service. For those of us outside of town right now, that bus service is not available. But friends and family and volunteers and rideshare, I have used cabs and rideshare. Lyft is what I use because I understand that there are no Uber drivers in town now. There were for a while, but I have been using Lyft, and they've all been great. And the cab drivers too. I rode, used cabs years ago, and I was not impressed. They were all old cars and not comfortable to be in, but they seem to be upgraded quite a bit now, so that works. And another part of transportation is that I have started using wheelchair assistance in airports, mostly because of my eyes, because it's hard to see where the next gate is and that sort of thing. And those folks have been so nice, just really great. There's no charge for it. You just, when you make your plane reservation, make the request for wheelchair assistance, and then tip the pusher. I guess it's not the driver, but anyway, if you feel like it, but it's worth it, especially if you've been traveling overseas and you're coming back through customs. You know, that's always kind of a hard place to find, and a long line and everything. But the wheelchair assistance people know where everything is. They're really great. Even in the Seattle airport, with all the times over 50 years that I've been there, sometimes there's construction. You never know, of course, where you're going to land and where you're going to need to go for your next flight. So having somebody who knows where they're going is really great. Oops, pushed the wrong one. Sorry. Okay. So volunteers, friends, and family are wonderful. This is a picture of me in probably early April, because I was going to the library. A volunteer from Aging at Home gave me a ride to the library, and I took my taxes to the AARP tax aid folks. So they did my taxes for free, the volunteers there. I've always done my taxes before, but my eyes just don't let me do it anymore. So that has been really helpful. So sometimes it feels like you're slogging through deep snow, but you can make things work and feel like a moose. A lot more comfortable with it. Not quite as graceful, but it works. But I just like to say, kind of in closing, that remember that if you have low vision, be an advocate for yourself. Don't be too proud or embarrassed or afraid to ask somebody for help or a ride. Give feedback if you find a publication or a website or even an email format or something that you can't read easily. And speaking up now will help other low vision folks. And I think there are lots more people thinking about this these days, and whatever we can do will help, or at least I'm hoping so. So thank you. And I think we've probably got some time for questions or comments or more ideas. I'm going to stop sharing. I can find the right button.
Thank you, Mary.
Mary Ann, this is Ron. That fantastic presentation. I appreciate the effort you've put into this. All the visuals plus your experience. It's great what you're doing. I just happened to notice New York Times had an article come out today, 10 things that are good for your eyes. And
Oh, great. Okay, I will look at that.
Yeah, it was very good. Like one of the ones near the end was a large clinical study just came out saying the compounds found in carrots actually can help slow down macular degeneration. I think you've talked
Really?
about that before, but it was like item 10 in the article. So do you subscribe to the Times?
I do, but if you have the link or could send it to me, that'd be great, so I don't forget to look for it. I don't always read it, but yes, I would love to see that.
I'll mention
Yeah,
two other
carrots have always been known to be good for night vision, to help with night vision, but I didn't realize that they were useful for this too.
There was just a very recent study just came out. But anyway, I'll send it to you. So
Thanks.
two other quick things.
Mhm.
I use the Alaska Digital Library a lot. And that is wonderful for audiobooks. There's probably several thousand audiobooks that you can get through the Alaska Digital Library. And third thing I mentioned.
Speaking of the Alaska Digital Library and Overdrive, and now it's changed to Libby, but that's all part of through the library. So if you you can get information on it at the library, the Noel Wien website, or the best thing to do probably if anybody's interested in that is talking to one of the reference librarians. They can talk you through how to download the app and get